I'm Brian Wilson alongside Larry O'Connor.
And he is to presidential political journalism what the Golden State Warriors are to professional basketball. He is Byron York of the Washington Examiner. Byron, congratulations on your 72 wins this season.
Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You got one more to break the record. You got to beat the Grizzlies. Okay, let's talk about Colorado. Boy, I don't know who to believe here. I'm saying Ted Cruz and his organizational masterpiece of the Rocky Mountain State wins him all of the delegates there in their convention, not a primary, not a caucus, but they have sort of an assembly thing going on there. And the Trump people say foul play, dirty tricks. Who's right, who's wrong?
Well, it's not foul play and dirty tricks. But it's a weird thing to have that Colorado did, basically. But we all knew this last year. If you went and looked down the schedule of Republican primaries, you would say, "Where's Colorado?" And the fact is, they didn't have one. The state decided not to have a primary or caucus. And the cynical reading, and probably the accurate one, is that they feared that they would, the sort of insiders feared that they would have less control over the prospect if they let people actually vote. On the other hand, this was known. I mean, it was known that the delegates were going to be selected by conventions, and you could go there and you as a campaign could go there and try to get influence. And Cruz has worked this inside game. We know this way better than Trump everywhere that it matters in the country. So, Cruz played a bad situation better than Trump did.
Yeah, and that one thing you have to say is that when you look at the two campaigns, Cruz and Trump, as you pointed out, Cruz really has been almost flawless in his management of this process.
He has, and he's basically, there are a few situations. Now, Colorado stands apart, but there are other situations, like Pennsylvania, for example, which all of its delegates are unbound. Their primary is going to be a big deal. We're all going to make a big deal of it, and then the delegates can do what they want. Yeah. But most of the delegates are bound to vote on the first ballot at the convention. Some for more, but at least on the first ballot in the convention, they're bound to vote for whichever candidate won the primary or caucus in their state or in their district. But after that, they can go and vote for whoever they want to. So what we've seen Cruz do is go to a number of states like South Carolina, where Trump won all 50 delegates, and all 50 have to vote for Trump on the first ballot. Mm-hmm. But Cruz has really been working to get people who would vote for Cruz if it comes to a second ballot. So you're seeing a lot of that going on around the country.
All right, but also it should be pointed out, though, that if you look at the numbers in the polls in Pennsylvania and in New York, it looks as if Donald Trump is going to crush Ted Cruz in both those states.
Absolutely huge. And we have to remember that Trump is really the only one who still has a path to get to 1237 before the convention. Yes, it's difficult, but he has this path. And in New York, if he were to win all 95 delegates, but to do that, he'd have to get above 50% everywhere in all of the congressional districts. That's a huge step forward. If he does that, the percentage of delegates he has to win going forward goes down, and his path is still quite open. Cruz, on the other hand, they'll tell you. Ted Cruz the other night in Wisconsin said, "I still hope to win the number of delegates before the convention." Well, that's not going to happen. I mean, the real hope is just to keep Trump below 1237 so they can get to that second ballot, so all of that delegate work will pay off.
I just want to revisit something you just said about this Pennsylvania primary. You just pointed out rightly, Brian, that the polls show that Donald Trump is going to have a huge win there. Did you just say that every delegate chosen in Pennsylvania, regardless of what the voters say, they are open to vote for whomever they wish on the first ballot?
Yeah, it's a very unusual situation.
So the voters don't matter.
States have some requirement for this, but in Pennsylvania, and been reading work by Selena Zito, the reporter of the Tribune up there, been very valuable in pointing out all of this. Pennsylvania has just very unusual rules, and So we're just going to have to see what these delegates want to do.
Byron, and let's talk about the bigger picture here, because this is the problem that the RNC and the Republican Party in general has, just in terms of the appearance. Nobody votes in Colorado. Every single delegate goes to Ted Cruz. Trump might win the vote in Pennsylvania, and for all we know, every single delegate could go to Ted Cruz. It's harder for them, and then also, by the way, the Colorado Republican Party, state party, tweets out a "Never Trump" hashtag tweet, saying we did it after the convention. Now, the state party says that was unauthorized, but the impression here is that Trump, and even more importantly, the people who are voting for Trump, are being jobbed.
Yeah, the implication is that the insiders of the party are stacking the deck against Trump. And the insiders say, well, look, the rules are the rules. We knew this going in. You, Donald Trump, knew that there were all these state delegate processes, and you ignored them, and you prefer to go to have speeches and win the primary, and that's all well and good, but you have to follow through with the delegates. But I do think that the nature of this campaign has shown the anti-democratic side of the Republican nominating process, and believe me, there's plenty of that on the Democratic side.
Yes.
I'm not
singling
out the Republican Party on this, but in this case, the whole difference between Trump and his popular appeal and Cruz with his more insider appeal has highlighted these differences in which party insiders have given themselves traditionally the advantage over voters in the nominating process.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Byron York of the Washington Examiner.